Well, this was fun. Piers Morgan and his pro Trump propaganda were once again publicly humiliated on his own show, this time by a new liberal foil. Jo Jo from Jerz, a fun and foul mouthed liberal Twitter influencer who showed up on Piers Morgan and demonstrated her debate prowess in a heated 3v1 debate about the January 6th pardons. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, I got to be honest with you. I did not expect this particular matchup, but it was brilliant. I hate Piers Morgan's politics for the most part. I despise his disingenuous pro-Trump propaganda because he presents himself, or claims to be, I should say, a nonpartisan, principled journalist when he sweeps for Trump 9 times out of 10. But the man has talent. There's a reason that his channel constantly blows up, and he knows how to put some good panels together. So he recruited Jo Jo from Jerz, somebody I've been following on Twitter for years now. She is hilarious. She is a brilliant, fun, foul-mouthed liberal Twitter influencer. And as far as I know, this is like her first really big appearance on an on-camera debate, and she did not disappoint at all. I should also say, for context, she was up against Geraldo Rivera, who used to be a Fox News contributor, kind of like right-leaning, left-leaning centrist. He used to be a Trump fan. Then he became a Trump opponent after January 6th. You have Brandon Stratka, a pardoned January 6th protester, and, of course, Piers. So on the topic of Trump, it is effectively a 3v1 because Geraldo actually supports the pardons that Donald Trump gave. So it's a 3v1, and we're going to play this clip and unpack it together.
How I would categorize your expression there. Welcome to Uncensored. Great to have you here. You made a big name for yourself in the last year, so it's exciting to have you. I don't think you feel he's quite on the roll in the euphoric way that Geraldo does. Am I right in picking up the rather more negative vibes?
Well, thank you for having me on. And yeah, no, you're definitely picking up what I'm laying down. But I wanted to start with, Piers, your comment about Donald Trump's achievement in installing a Diet Coke button in the Resolute desk, because I'm old-fashioned, I guess, and my barometer for achievement is maybe not leaving office, saddling our economy with the third largest debt relative to the size of our economy of any president in our history. But I mean, maybe you measure success differently. And I just wanted to also mention Geraldo. Yeah, you're right about it being exciting. Someone mentioned something about this being exciting, but I'm old enough to know and grew up in the tri-state area that sometimes exciting things also yield nothing, like, a vault being opened on live TV or something like that, where you can get a lot of excitement and drum it up. And then ultimately, it reveals nothing. I'm just...
So I believe that's a reference to, because Geraldo used to be a talk show host and it didn't end particularly well. So that's a reference to his talk show. Again, you can see right out the gate, I mean, despite the fact that this is not her format, she is coming out swinging. If you follow Jo Jo from Jerz, this is what she does. She is a ball buster, and she is amazing at it. I love the fact how she very charmingly threw it back in Piers's face that you can say whatever you want, but Donald Trump does not have a particularly robust record of accomplishment as president. There's actually much more to his detriment in terms of his failures than his accomplishments. And, of course, Piers is inclined to grade him on a curve. But we're going to continue to play the clip.
Old enough to remember that. Oh, look, Geraldo, I all due respect, I did grow up with you on TV, and everyone remembers that sort of infamously, well, I don't know how to, I won't say it was a failure, but let's just say infamous event. But you mentioned that he has a mandate, and I wanted to... television. Oh, look,
Yeah,
I mean, we
was.
watched it, right? It was amazing. It's now become a punchline and a running joke, and all due respect, we all build our careers the way we do. But you mentioned that he has a mandate, and I wanted to touch on that because he did not win the majority of the popular vote. He has a plurality of the popular vote. There are more people in this country who didn't vote for him than did.
And that's an important distinction, because Piers and even Geraldo, they tend to grade Trump on a curve here. Yes, he won the popular vote, but that doesn't mean he won a majority. He didn't win a majority. He won a plurality. He won more than any other candidate in the field, including Vice President Kamala Harris, but he didn't win 50% of the vote. More people cast a ballot for somebody else, be it Harris or Jill Stein or a third-party candidate, than they did Trump. Whereas when President Biden beat Trump in 2020, it was by a majority vote, and it was by a 4.4% popular vote swing.
So none of that is a mandate by any stretch of the imagination.
Hang on. putting aside your very quick, sly whack at Geraldo, who's far too gentlemanly, I'm sure, to respond
whack at Geraldo.
in kind. But putting that aside, actually, Trump does have an undeniable, incredible mandate. He won the Electoral College, the popular vote, the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. It is what is called in politics a clean sweep. And
so what's funny about that is you may recall a couple of months ago, Brian Tyler Cohen, friend of the stream, a friend of the show, appeared on Piers Morgan and reminded Piers, well, Donald Trump lost the popular vote by a greater margin in 2020 than he won in 2024. Do you call that a landslide? And Piers just like crumbled in real time. No, that was different because that was a referendum on COVID, as if 2024 wasn't a referendum on incumbents everywhere for post-COVID inflation. So again, it was a pretty lazy analysis by Piers. But Donald Trump lost the popular vote in 2020, the Electoral College in 2020, the House of Representatives in 2020, the U.S. Senate in 2020 as well with the 2021 runoff. So was Piers Morgan, and would Piers Morgan today say that 2020 was a blowout for Biden and the Democrats? No, because he grades Trump by a different standard. And Joe is about to point some of this out.
And you on the left, with all due respect...
He's also lost all of those things. The first one to ever do that, Piers. He's also lost all of those things. The first one to ever do that.
But at some point, I think in the process of Democrats trying to somehow regain some credibility, you are going to have to just accept you got a complete shellacking. You're just going to have to.
Did Trump? And again, you see it in real time. He has no response to that when she points out that, well, Trump lost all those things before and he won again. So just a couple of things. And this is my point. This is a low point for the Democrats. We are, I guess, wandering in the wilderness, so to speak. We don't have a clear-cut leader. We are trying to find our footing, find our identity after Trump's victory. But let's be clear. The Democrats know how to win elections. We lost this one, to be clear. But we beat Trump, the Republican Party, in 2018 in the midterms. We beat Trump in 2020. We beat Trump in the Senate in 2020, 2021. We effectively won the 2022 midterms because not only did the historic precedent benefit the Republicans and the political headwinds at the time benefit Republicans, but they actually barely won the House of Representatives, and we expanded our Democratic majority in the Senate. So there was supposed to be a red wave, and it was more like a pinkish trickle. We won the midterms. We won the 2023 runoff elections. So what are you talking about, Piers? Did you acknowledge that? Did Republicans do some self-searching? Did they engage in humility after the shellacking they've lost, that they've experienced over the years? No. So would it behoove Democrats to engage in introspection? Yes. But do we owe Piers Morgan and MAGA some sort of self-flagellating tour of apology? No, because Donald Trump, by that logic, owed us one, and so did his Republican Party after multiple back-to-back defeats, and they didn't provide one. So why are we obligated to do one here, other than, again, you just grade the Democrats and the Republicans by different standards?
And then you're going to have to work out how you're going to somehow get back at Trump in a way that doesn't involve just endless screaming. As we're speaking, Selena Gomez, right? I'm going to play you a clip. This is exactly what I'm talking.
And so then he goes on to talk about Selena Gomez, and I really have no interest in that. So we're gonna skip ahead a little bit to a different clip because Selena Gomez is a celebrity, and her viral reactions to things in the Trump administration are not the topic of this particular channel. And again, Selena Gomez isn't an elected member of Congress. So what the hell are you talking about? She's not a Democratic bigwig or a Democratic player. What are you talking about, Piers? So here's another clip from Joe smacking down the J6 apologia.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to talk about, just to pick up on something Geraldo said about the pardon. I agree with him 100% that Donald Trump was well within his constitutional right to do whatever he wanted with the pardon. I think we should find a way to reform the pardon in this country. I don't believe we should have a monarch who has any power that is uncheckable. I think, again, Joe Biden was roundly criticized for his choices to pardon the people that he did. But ironically, again, he was well within his constitutional right to do that. And in Donald Trump's case, just because you can does not mean you should. And pardoning those people who did beat our police officers that day, some of which are my very good friends, pardoning them sends the wrong message to everyone in the country.
So, and I want to say, this notion's actually been echoed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump sycophant. Like, I think this sends the wrong signal. Now, of course, because Graham is a sycophant, he's not going to meaningfully break with Trump on this. He's just going to tepidly offer this factual criticism and then move on. But this is really important. So what's interesting is when it comes to Democrats, use of executive or legislative power isn't a matter of, well, can you do it? It's a matter of should you do it, right? That is the standard that's always imposed by centrists and conservatives on liberals and the left. Okay, set aside whether or not you can, should you? When it comes to them grading their own side, it's not a matter of should, it's a matter of can you. So no one disputes that Donald Trump has absolutely the constitutional authority to pardon nonviolent protesters, violent protesters, his family. He has the power to do these things. It's simply a matter of whether or not you should exercise that power, just as, again, that question would be if the shoe were on the other foot. They rant and rave about President Biden's pardons of Hunter Biden and members of his family in the January 6th Select Committee. And House Democrats and Senate Democrats, elected Democrats, even liberal and progressive commentators, even I have criticized some of these decisions. And there's much more criticism of Biden from his own party than there is Trump of his own party. You see what I'm saying? Like, we are much more inclined to hold our own to account than the Republicans are to theirs. But again, good on Joe for saying, okay, well, it's a matter of should, not can. And if it's a matter of should, not can, well, then you all should shut up about Biden's pardons because Biden had the authority to do what he did too.
And I just also wanted to say, in terms of what the American people voted,
many of them were attacked by the police.
In terms of what the American people voted for, I'm sorry,
JoJo,
when you're done interrupting,
you're just repeating
I'm going to continue to say what I was saying, and you're going to just talk over me. I'm going to, I'm from New Jersey, sir. I have been talked over, believe me. Piers, what I was saying in terms of what the American people voted for as it pertains to January 6th, I was saying something. I mean, I'm not surprised at all that you have no regard for civility. Of course, he's just going to talk over me. I was talking.
All right, can you both stop talking, because nobody can understand a word you're saying. So let's just, Brandon, I will come to you to respond. Let JoJo finish her point.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I will come to Brandon.
Thank you very much.
Please don't answer. Please don't
really,
talk over
the
each other.
degradation
Nobody can hear you. Yeah, when you talk over each other, it's very pleasing for both of you, but nobody else. So JoJo, finish your point.
Thank you very much, because that's exactly what I was doing. I just wanted to pick up on something Geraldo said in terms of what the American people voted for when they voted for Donald Trump as it pertains to the January 6th pardons. And they did not actually support pardoning the most violent insurrectionists that day. Overwhelmingly, they said that they didn't want that. There was, a spectrum.
And this is true. The polling backs this up. The fact of the matter is pardoning January 6th defendants has never been popular. Any poll that talks about this particular topic shows that more Americans oppose it than support it. Now, again, Trump has the right to do unpopular things as long as he has the constitutional power to do so, but don't lie and pretend that these decisions were popular. They were not.
Related to those who, like the guy who did the cosplay and the cage thing as a January 6th inmate thing, that guy, there was some debate over whether those people should be pardoned.
Jojo, here's the problem.
The American people didn't vote for that, Piers. They didn't vote for those pardons.
Hang on, please. The problem is with pardons is that Joe Biden has done what only one president in history has ever done, and that was once. Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon preemptively, right? He gave him a preemptive full pardon for any more crimes that may come out. Joe Biden's done it for half his family, for a bunch of other people. He's given them all preemptive get-out-of-jail-free cards. We don't even know what the potential crimes might have been in the case of his family members. He's so desperate to preemptively pardon. So my point being that when the existing Democrat president abuses the pardon system in such an obviously personally self-interested manner, I don't think you really have the high moral ground on the left to go after Trump on pardons. I'm afraid that ship has sailed.
Piers, if you don't think that pardoning violence is a preemptive pardon for more acts of violence? You don't think that is exactly what you're setting the table for? That you don't think that the message is you commit acts of violence, I'm preemptively pardoning you by showing you that I will pardon you for your acts of violence? It is 100% a preemptive pardon for 1,600 people. Let's just say half of that number were violent. The preemptive pardon there is go ahead and commit acts of violence and I will let you get away with it. So yes, I do understand what you're saying about preemptive pardons and Joe Biden being the only other one since Gerald Ford, but Donald Trump just preemptively pardoned every violent, potentially violent insurrectionist
did he? Because
who
actually
commit
they'd all
those
been
acts of violence in his name.
Yeah, all right,
it's a permission structure,
all right,
100%.
Here's the difference. They'd already been in jail for quite considerable periods of time. There's a complete difference between those and those who never went to jail. Brandon, final word to you on this.
So a couple of things. Her point is that Donald Trump pardoned his violent supporters. At least 600 were prosecuted for attacking police officers or engaging in violence. 172 pled guilty to assaulting police officers. Pled guilty. And about 70 pled guilty to assaulting police officers with a deadly weapon. And 600 total, again, were charged with violence on January 6th. Her point is it is a de facto preemptive pardon because it shows, hey, listen, if you, my violent supporters, engage in violence in my service or on my behalf or in furtherance of my cause, I have demonstrated that I will pardon you. So it is a de facto preemptive pardon. The other difference, of course, is that we have no evidence that Joe Biden's family members or the January 6th Select Committee attacked police officers, engaged in violence, invaded the Capitol, tried to overturn a free and fair election. So based on the evidence we have, what Donald Trump did was just objectively worse because the people whom he pardoned have done objectively worse things. Well, we don't know what the Biden family has done. Well, you need to actually produce evidence, right? The Biden family has been relentlessly scrutinized by Republicans, particularly Hunter Biden, since 2018. Senate Republicans investigated him. House Republicans investigated him. He was investigated by President Obama, then Donald Trump, and then President Biden's own Justice Department. He is one of, if not the most extensively congressionally investigated private citizens in the history of this country. And I'm sorry, his crimes pale in comparison to what happened on January 6th. So the reason Biden did what he did was because Trump threatened to go after his family in extraordinary ways. We've just never seen anything like that. Certainly Democrats haven't threatened to go after Jared or Ivanka or Eric or Laura or Tiffany or Barron. Again, there's a total asymmetry here. So she's just so good at what she does. A great point by saying this pardon on January 6th is a de facto preemptive pardon, and Piers doesn't really have anything for that. So once again, his attempts to create a false equivalence failed spectacularly. JoJo was great. Again, this is not something she typically does. She's on Twitter, right? She is just, that's her milieu. So for her to step into this arena, basically outnumbered 3v1 people who say, oh, January 6 pardons were either great or they were acceptable or they weren't a big deal in relation to what went on with Biden. For her to be the only outspoken liberal criticizing Trump, it's a pretty impressive debut performance. You should definitely check her out on Twitter. It's well worth your time. Great, entertaining feed. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.